Some people doubt you not because they know your limits, but because they are afraid you might discover your power. They whisper behind your back. They question your dreams. They look at your struggle and think they've already seen your ending. But what they don't know is this: your story is just getting started. Today, you're not here to beg for validation. You are here to rise. You are here to awaken the strength buried inside of you. And today is the day you decide to prove them wrong and prove yourself right. My friends, listen to me closely. Life will test you long before it rewards you. The world will question you long before it applauds you. And the path to your destiny, the real one, is always crowded with voices telling you what you can't do, what you're not capable of, what you're not worthy of. But there is a voice deeper than all the noise, the voice of the strength inside you, the voice of your purpose. It doesn't speak loud, but it speaks true. And when you learn to listen to that inner voice, when you learn to trust that inner fire, nobody on this planet can limit you. So today, I stand before you not just to motivate you, but to remind you of who you are. To remind you that your failures are not final, your doubts are not permanent, and the people who don't believe in you are not the authors of your story. You are bigger than the labels they put on you. You are greater than the fears trying to hold you back. And you have everything you need to rise higher than they ever expected. This is your time, your moment, your turning point. And from this day forward, your life becomes the proof that you were always capable, always worthy, and always destined for more. People's doubts are not your destiny. And if you understand this deeply, it will change the entire direction of your life. Every day you walk through a world filled with opinions. People talk, people judge, people point fingers, and people assume things about you without knowing the battles you fight when the world is quiet. They see your present and think they can predict your future. They see your struggle and think they can measure your strength. They look at your failure and think they understand your story. But their doubts are nothing more than reflections of their own insecurities, their own fears, their own limits. And many times, the people who doubt you the most are the ones who never tried for themselves. Think about it when you share a dream. Some people immediately say it's too hard, not because they know your path, but because they don't believe they could walk it themselves. When you tell them your plans, they roll their eyes, not because your dream is impossible, but because they've settled for less in their own lives. Their doubt has nothing to do with your abilities. It has everything to do with their mindset. I want you to remember a daily life example you may have lived. Maybe you told someone you wanted to start a business, and they said, people like us don't succeed in that. But deep down, you knew they weren't talking about people like us. They were talking about themselves. Maybe you told someone you wanted to lose weight or get healthier, and they laughed and said, you always say that you'll give up soon. But that wasn't a prediction. That was their habit speaking. Or maybe you told a friend you wanted to study, to learn a new skill, to elevate your life, and they shrugged and said, why bother? It won't change anything. Those words weren't about your ability. They were about their lack of belief in change. But listen closely. Every person who ever achieved something great had people doubting them. Every person who rose from average to exceptional faced voices saying, you can't. The difference is that strong people hear those voices and say, watch me. There is a story we live every day without realizing it. The story of proving people wrong simply by continuing. Think of the student who everyone thinks will fail because they've struggled in the past. Think of how powerful it is when that same student stays up late, studies hard, stays disciplined, and brings home a result that shocks everyone who underestimated them. Think of the young woman who was told she was not good enough, not talented enough, confident enough, but she kept practicing her craft, kept believing in her dream, until one day her work was admired by the same people who once ignored her. Think of the man who was told he would never break out of his financial struggle, that he would always be stuck, but he took small steps every day, saving a little, learning a little, trying again and again, until one day he built something stable and strong that no one could take away from him. These are not stories from movies. These are real, everyday examples happening around us, and they prove one truth: people's doubts have no authority over your destiny unless you hand them the pen. The moment you stop letting other people's opinions shape your choices, something powerful happens. You begin to trust your own voice more than the noise around you. You begin to realize that your purpose is bigger than their judgment. You start noticing that the opinions that once felt heavy begin to lose their weight the moment you decide they don't get to control you. It starts with one simple shift: understanding that what others think of you is not your truth. It's their perspective shaped by their journey, not yours. And once you realize this, you gain a freedom that many people never experience. You gain the freedom to fail without shame, to try without limits, to rise without permission. You gain the freedom to choose what kind of person you want to become, not what they expect you to be. And let me tell you something important. Sometimes the same people who doubted you will be the ones who clap the loudest when you succeed. Not because they suddenly believed in you, because your success forced them to recognize what was always inside you. You don't need to fight their doubt, argue with them, or prove yourself through words. Life has a way of turning silent effort into loud victories. Your consistency becomes your proof. Your growth becomes your answer. Your results become your response. Their doubts may surround you, but they cannot define you. Your belief in yourself is stronger than every negative word spoken against you. You were not born to be limited by someone else's small vision. You were born to rise, to create, to transform, to push beyond what anyone thought was possible. So the next time someone doubts you, don't let it discourage you. Let it remind you that you are walking a path they can't imagine. The next time someone says you can't, let it spark a fire in you that says, just wait and see. Because in the end, the greatest feeling in the world is not proving them wrong. It is proving yourself right. Your self-belief is your greatest weapon. And once you truly understand this, you will stop searching for strength in the world and start finding it within yourself. Every victory begins not with talent, not with money, not with opportunity, but with a quiet whisper inside your soul that says, I can. That whisper is the seed of every success story you've ever admired. Self-belief is not about pretending to be perfect or fearless. It is about trusting that you can grow, that you can learn, and that you can become more than what you are right now. And in a world full of doubts, distractions, judgments, comparisons, believing in yourself becomes a revolutionary act. Think about your everyday life, the moment before you start something new. Maybe you've stood at the doorway of a big decision, like starting a new job, applying for a course, speaking in front of a group, or taking a step that scares you. And before you even begin, there's a voice inside saying, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What will people think? But here's the truth that most people never realize: nobody is born confident. Confidence is built by doing the things you once thought you couldn't. Every courageous person you admire started as someone unsure, someone scared, someone questioning themselves, but they moved anyway. And that movement, that decision to step forward, even with shaky hands, is what builds the foundation of self-belief. Let's take a simple daily life example. Imagine a person who wants to go to the gym for the first time. They stand in front of the mirror and see flaws they hate. They're afraid people will look at them or judge them. They think everyone else is stronger, fitter, more capable. But the day they choose to walk into that gym despite the fear, they take the first step toward becoming someone they can be proud of. Over time, as they show up again and again, something shifts inside. The fear starts fading. The self-belief starts growing. And one day they realize, I can do this. I am stronger than I thought. Or imagine a student who has always struggled with studies. Teachers doubt them, classmates mock them, and even their family has low expectations. But one day that student sits down and says, maybe I can do better. Maybe I can try. And with each small improvement, each solved problem, each completed lesson, their confidence grows like sunlight breaking through clouds. The student begins to realize that the world wasn't holding them back. It was their own belief that was missing. And once that belief arrives, everything else starts aligning. Think about the person who wants to start a small business or learn a new skill. At first, they see people doing it better, faster, more professionally, and they think, who am I to try this? But what they don't see is that those people were once beginners too. They also started from zero. They also made mistakes. They also felt lost. The difference is they believed they could grow. They believed that effort mattered more than perfection. And that belief shaped their success. Self-belief is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. But it needs to be trained. Every time you choose to ignore doubt, you strengthen the muscle. Every time you choose to try again after failing, you strengthen the muscle. Every time you choose to celebrate your small wins, instead of criticizing yourself, you strengthen the muscle. So often people wait for confidence to magically appear before they take action. But confidence is not the beginning. It is the result. You act first, and confidence follows. That is why the people who achieve big things are not the ones who never doubt themselves. They are the ones who refuse to let doubt stop them. Think of any area of life: career, fitness, relationships, creativity, self-improvement. The moment you start believing in yourself, you unlock doors you didn't know existed. You walk differently, you talk differently, you attract different energies, and you start seeing possibilities where you once saw obstacles. Self-belief changes your vision. It takes you from I can't to I will. It takes you from fear to courage. It takes you from surviving to rising. And the most beautiful part is this: once you start believing in yourself, the world slowly begins to believe in you too. But the belief must start with you. Not with applause, not with validation, not with approval, but with your own quiet conviction that you are capable of more. Success doesn't come to the strongest or the smartest. It comes to the one who believes they deserve it. So the next time you feel like quitting, remind yourself that you are stronger than your excuses. The next time you feel unworthy, remind yourself that everyone starts somewhere. The next time someone doubts you, remind yourself that your power comes from within, not from their opinion. You don't need to wait for someone to affirm your greatness. You need to step into it. Speak kindly to yourself. Encourage yourself. Support yourself. Because the truth is, the world can only see your value once you do. When you believe in yourself, you become unstoppable, unshackable, and unbreakable. And when you walk with that kind of inner strength, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that you cannot achieve. Your struggle is proof that your story matters. And the moment you begin to see your challenges not as obstacles, but as markers of your journey, your perspective on life changes completely. Every difficulty, every setback, every moment of pain is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are on a path worth traveling. Think about it. If life were easy, if success came without effort, if growth didn't demand sacrifice, then no one would ever value it. Struggle is the measure of your courage, the proof of your persistence, and the signal that you are alive and moving forward. Imagine the person working tirelessly at a job that barely pays enough, waking up before sunrise, staying late after everyone leaves, sacrificing weekends and comfort to provide for their family. To an outsider, it might look exhausting, pointless, or even unfair. But for that person, every moment of exhaustion is the building of character, every small victory a reminder that the work matters, and every struggle a silent declaration that they will not give up. Or consider the student who studies relentlessly, juggling part-time work, family responsibilities, and school projects, only to see grades that fall short of expectation. It is easy to feel defeated, to think that the effort is wasted. But what they may not realize is that the discipline, the endurance, and the resilience they are cultivating will outlast any single grade. Years later, when doors open and opportunities arrive, it will be their unwavering persistence, built through struggle, that carries them forward. Think of the aspiring entrepreneur who invests time, money, and energy into an idea that fails repeatedly. Each setback is painful, each disappointment heavy. Friends may question, family may doubt, and competitors may laugh. But every failure teaches a lesson, every rejection strengthens resolve, and every challenge refines strategy. These struggles are not signs of inadequacy. They are the proof that the entrepreneur is pushing boundaries, stepping outside comfort zones, and chasing something meaningful. Life is full of daily examples like this. The single parent who balances work, home, and children, often without recognition, whose perseverance shapes the next generation. The artist who creates tirelessly, facing criticism and indifference, yet continues to produce because they know their voice is value. The athlete who trains through pain, facing setbacks, injuries, and losses, yet rises to perform at levels they once thought impossible. Struggle is not an enemy. It is a teacher, a guide, and a witness to your growth. When you look at your own struggles through this lens, you begin to understand that the difficulties you face are not meaningless. Each moment of doubt, each tear shed, each obstacle overcome is a chapter in a story that is uniquely yours, a story that could not exist without the hardship that shaped it. Imagine the weight of the world pressing on you, the responsibilities, the fears, the criticisms, and yet despite it all, you continue to move forward. That is proof, that is testimony, that is evidence that your life has purpose. People often try to run from struggle to avoid discomfort, to take shortcuts that promise ease. But the truth is that struggle molds character, strength, and resilience in ways comfort never could. A life without struggle may appear smooth, but it is often shallow and untested. When you embrace the challenges, when you understand that the grind, the sweat, and even the pain are all part of your story, you begin to see beauty in the process. You begin to see that your life matters because it demands effort, courage, and endurance. Consider the person recovering from loss, heartbreak, or failure. The nights they spend questioning their worth, the hours they cry in silence, the days they feel defeated. These are not wasted moments. They are the forge in which strength is tempered. They are the soil in which resilience grows. And when the dawn comes, when healing happens, when success arrives, the struggle will be the proof that the journey was real, necessary, and meaningful. Every struggle you endure is a silent victory. It shows that you refuse to surrender, that you faced the challenge instead of running from it, and that you honored the value of your story by not letting hardship define the end, but rather shape the path forward. And when people look at your life and see your achievements, they may not always recognize the battles you fought, but that does not diminish their significance. In fact, it makes your story even more inspiring because it is proof that the triumph was earned, not given. So the next time you feel weighed down by life's challenges, remember that your struggle is not a sign of weakness, is the signature of someone who is alive, who is striving, who refuses to settle for mediocrity. Your challenges, your obstacles, your hardships are all proof that your story matters. They are the evidence that you are walking a path that only you can walk, creating a life that only you can live. And when you embrace your struggle, when you rise through it with courage, determination, and patience, you become a living testament to the power of resilience, an inspiration for everyone who watches your journey unfold. You don't need approval. You need purpose. And understanding this truth is one of the most liberating moments you will ever experience in life. Too often, people spend their entire existence seeking validation from others, waiting for permission to pursue their dreams or hoping that someone else will recognize their worth before they take action. We look around and measure our choices, our goals, our confidence by the opinions, reactions, and judgments of those who will never truly walk our path. The world has a way of convincing you that your dreams are small, that your ambitions are unrealistic, that your desires are secondary. Maybe a friend tells you, "Why do you want to do that? It's too risky." Or a family member says, "This isn't what people like us do." Or a coworker laughs at the idea of you stepping outside the ordinary. And in those moments, it is tempting to shrink, to lower your sights, to abandon the fire inside you for the comfort of approval. But the truth is, approval is temporary, external, and often unreliable. Purpose, on the other hand, is eternal, internal, and unstoppable. Purpose does not require anyone else to recognize it before you act. Purpose does not ask for permission. Purpose moves forward even when the path is uncertain and the world doubts you. Think about a student who decides to pursue a career in a field that is unconventional or misunderstood. Teachers, friends, or even family may question the choice, but the student who acts out of purpose rather than approval studies harder, works smarter, and refuses to let opinions derail their vision. Years later, when they achieve success, The same people who doubted them see results and are amazed. But it was never about proving anyone right. It was about fulfilling a purpose only the students could see for themselves. Or consider an aspiring writer who spends nights pouring their thoughts onto paper, self-editing, rewriting, and revising, while friends suggest they pursue a safer career. Every discouraging comment is like a weight on their shoulders, yet the writer keeps going because their purpose. The need to express, create, and impact lives through words is stronger than the desire for approval. Over time, their work touches hearts, inspires minds, and changes perspectives, proving that following purpose outweighs any temporary validation from the world. Daily life is filled with examples like this. The young entrepreneur who invests their savings into a business idea faces criticism from peers who tell them to play it safe. Yet purpose drives them to research, strategize, and persevere through challenges. The single parent who decides to return to school while juggling work and family responsibilities may face skepticism from those who say it's too much, but the purpose of providing a better future for their children gives them strength beyond external approval. Even in the simplest moments, purpose over approval becomes a guiding force, choosing to speak up in a meeting despite fear of judgment, deciding to start exercising and prioritizing health even when others mock, taking a risk to share an idea that could transform a process or project even if colleagues doubt it. The principle is the same. Purpose is the compass, and approval is optional. When you focus on purpose, your energy shifts from trying to satisfy everyone else to investing in what truly matters to you. You begin to realize that the opinions of people who are not walking your journey are irrelevant to your growth. You start to measure your progress not by applause, by alignment with your own goals. You understand that living to please others is exhausting, unfulfilling, and often meaningless. But living in pursuit of your purpose gives life clarity, direction, and a sense of unstoppable momentum. The reality is, those who succeed beyond ordinary expectations are not the ones who waited for others to validate them. They are the ones who trusted their inner vision, acted despite doubt, and prioritized purpose over approval every single day. Think of the scientist experimenting tirelessly while others mocked the idea, or the athlete training through pain when no one was watching, or the artist creating in solitude while critics dismissed their talent. In each case, the common thread is purpose, an internal compass guiding action when external approval is absent. Purpose gives courage where fear wants to dominate. Purpose gives endurance when criticism threatens to break resolve. Purpose gives clarity when confusion clouds judgment. And perhaps most importantly, purpose makes every step, every struggle, every sacrifice meaningful. You don't have to wait for someone to tell you that your dream is valid. You don't need a nod, a smile, or a compliment to move forward. All you need is the clarity of your purpose and the courage to honor it every day. When you live with purpose, life itself becomes your approval, because each action taken in alignment with your goals affirms your worth and potential. So the next time you feel tempted to shrink because others doubt you, remember that their approval is irrelevant. Your purpose is your power. Your purpose is your guide. Your purpose is what will carry you through the hardest days, the longest nights, and the moments when the world tells you to stop. Approval is fleeting. Purpose is eternal. Follow it relentlessly, act on it fearlessly, and watch how your life transforms into the living proof that what truly matters is not what others say about you, but what you know to be true within yourself. Every setback is a setup for a comeback, and understanding this truth can completely transform the way you view failure, disappointment, and challenges in life. Setbacks are not the end of your journey. They are the universe's way of testing your resilience, your determination, and your willingness to rise higher than before. In fact, every story of triumph, every tale of success is filled with moments of failure, moments that could have stopped an ordinary person, but instead became the fuel for extraordinary achievement. Think about the student who studies tirelessly for an exam and still receives a disappointing grade. The initial reaction is frustration, doubt, or even shame. And it is easy to feel like giving up. But the student who understands that this setback is a lesson begins to analyze, adapt, and adjust strategies. They study differently, seek help, or approach the material from a new perspective. That one setback becomes a stepping stone for the next opportunity, and over time, their persistence leads to exceptional results. Consider the athlete who trains for months, faces defeat in a crucial match, and watches others celebrate what they were striving for. Most would let that loss define them, labeling themselves as incapable or unlucky. But the ones who rise see that loss as preparation. They analyze what went wrong, work on weaknesses, and come back stronger, faster, and smarter. One defeat does not erase their potential. It simply lays the groundwork for the next victory. Even in everyday life, setbacks are constant teachers. Imagine the person who starts a small business, invests savings, and faces the disappointment of an initial failure. A deal falling through, a product flopping, or a market refusing to respond. Many would quit, believing that success is unattainable. But those who embrace setbacks as lessons understand that each failure carries information about what works, what doesn't, and what can be improved. By making adjustments and continuing to act, they turn what seemed like a failure into the foundation for future success. Or think of the individual seeking a new career path who faces repeated rejections. Every no is painful, every door slam feels personal, yet each rejection carries a hidden opportunity. An opportunity to refine skills, improve resumes, expand networks, and gain clarity on what they truly want. The person who understands that these setbacks are setups for comebacks will persist with more focus, more energy, and more strategic action than ever before. Life is full of these moments if we pay attention. The person who gets injured and cannot perform at their previous level may discover new strengths, new ways to train, or new perspectives that elevate their abilities beyond what they thought possible. The entrepreneur who loses a client or faces financial difficulty may innovate, pivot, or expand horizons in ways that failure alone could not inspire. Even small, everyday setbacks, being passed over for an opportunity, receiving criticism, or facing personal disappointment are all invitations to learn, grow, and prepare for a more meaningful comeback. Setbacks test character, patience, and resilience, and those who rise above them do so not by avoiding failure, but by embracing it as part of the journey. Every challenge, every obstacle, every moment when life seems to push back is actually a setup for a greater leap forward. The key is perspective. When you see setbacks as lessons rather than punishments, as preparation rather than endings, as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks, your entire approach to life shifts. Your failures stop being sources of shame and start becoming sources of strength. You begin to realize that a single setback does not define your potential. Your response does. One of the most powerful examples comes from people who have faced repeated difficulties in their personal lives, yet choose to rise. Think of the person who loses a loved one, faces heartbreak, or suffers a major disappointment. These experiences are painful beyond words, yet they can also deepen empathy, strengthen resilience, and clarify priorities. Those who eventually rise from these hardships often accomplish things they never imagined, not in spite of their setbacks, but because of the lessons learned along the way. The truth is, comebacks are rarely sudden. They are built in quiet moments of perseverance, in small actions taken after failure, and in the refusal to surrender when circumstances are harsh. Each setback adds depth, insight, and experience to your journey, and the beauty of this principle is universal. The very things that seem to stop you often prepare you to rise stronger, smarter, and more capable than ever before. So the next time life knocks you down, instead of seeing it as a roadblock, see it as a setup for your next level. Instead of feeling defeated, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I grow? How can I come back stronger? Because when you embrace setbacks with this mindset, you no longer fear failure. You welcome it as a vital part of your journey. Every moment of struggle, every obstacle, every disappointment is laying the foundation for your greatest comeback. Your response to setbacks becomes the proof that nothing can keep you down for long. Your resilience, courage, and determination transform every failure into a launchpad for success. Life setbacks are not signs to quit. They are signals to rise, to adapt, and to prepare for victories that are even greater than what you initially imagined. And when you do rise, the world sees not a person defeated by circumstances, but a person who turned every setback into a setup and every challenge into triumph. Protect your vision from small minds. Because the moment you allow others' limited thinking to influence your dreams, you give away the power to create your own extraordinary life. Too often, people around us, friends, family, colleagues, or even strangers, try to shrink our ambitions, not out of malice, but because their world is small, their imagination constrained, and their courage limited. They cannot see beyond what they know, and when they hear about your big ideas, your bold goals, or your untested plans, they react with doubt, criticism, or fear-based advice. But you must understand that their limitations are not your reality. The people who try to convince you that your dream is impossible are not equipped to walk your path. And the more you let their small thinking creep into your mind, the more you risk sabotaging your own potential. Think about a young person who wants to start a business in an industry that is unfamiliar to their community. Friends and family may say, "It's too risky. It's not practical," or "People like us don't do that." In their minds, the only safe path is what has always been done. But in yours, you see a future that does not yet exist, a future created by innovation, courage, and vision. If you allow the voices of small minds to dominate your choices, you may never take the leap, never invest the effort, and never realize the extraordinary life waiting for you. Or consider the artist who dreams of painting, performing, or creating something unconventional. People around them might mock the ambition, compare them to others, or suggest that this is not a real career. Yet the artist knows that beauty, impact, and legacy are not measured by the approval of those who cannot imagine what is possible. When they continue to practice, to create, to hone their craft despite criticism, the small minds eventually witness a reality they could not conceive, a life built on courage, vision, and relentless action. Even in everyday moments, protecting your vision is crucial. Imagine a student who aspires to excel in a subject or enter a competitive field. Classmates may belittle the effort, teachers may underestimate their ability, or peers may say, "Why bother? You won't make it." If the student internalizes these opinions, they risk abandoning their potential. But if they focus on their own vision, study diligently, and take consistent steps forward, they transform skepticism into inspiration. And eventually they achieve results that redefine expectations. Protecting your vision is also about resisting comparison and distraction. In today's world, it is easy to look at what others are doing and question your own path. Small minds thrive on judgment and fear-based thinking, urging you to follow a conventional path or to settle for mediocrity. But the people who make history, who change industries, who inspire generations are not those who conform. They are those who protect their vision fiercely. They understand that no one else can define the value of their dreams, the potential of their ideas, or the impact of their purpose. Daily life is full of examples where vision met resistance and yet triumphed. The entrepreneur who launches a startup despite criticism, the student who pursues a scholarship or opportunity considered too difficult, the athlete who trains relentlessly while others doubt their potential, or the innovator who introduces a concept no one else could imagine. All of these people face small minds that question their path. And yet, by focusing on their vision and ignoring the limitations imposed by others, they not only succeeded, but they also inspired countless others to dream bigger. Protecting your vision requires discipline. It requires the courage to distance yourself from negativity, to limit the influence of pessimistic voices, and to surround yourself with those who believe in possibility rather than limitation. It also requires self-trust, a belief that you are capable of creating results that surpass the expectations of those who cannot imagine them. The key is to treat doubt as information, not authority. When someone tells you your dream is too big, too risky, or impossible, listen to understand their perspective. Do not allow it to shape your path. Let your vision remain sacred, untouchable by fear, small thinking, or skepticism. Imagine the fulfillment that comes when your vision becomes reality, the moment when the people who doubted you witness your achievement and are reminded that your determination, clarity, and courage were stronger than their limitations. That is the power of protecting your vision. You are not just building a future for yourself, But you are proving to yourself that your dreams matter, that your efforts count, and that small minds can never define the scope of what you are capable of achieving. In essence, every time you act in alignment with your vision despite doubt, criticism, or fear, you are declaring that your life is too valuable to be diminished by limited thinking. You are choosing growth over comfort, possibility over limitation, and purpose over approval. And in that choice lies the difference between a life of ordinary expectation and a life of extraordinary fulfillment. So guard your vision fiercely, act boldly, and never let anyone else's small thinking determine the magnitude of your dreams. When you do, you will find that your life unfolds in ways that inspire, motivate, and prove to the world and to yourself that vision protected is vision realized. Discipline will take you where motivation cannot. And understanding this truth is what separates those who achieve lasting success from those who rely solely on fleeting inspiration. Motivation is powerful, but it is unpredictable. It comes in waves, often when life feels easy, and disappears in moments of challenge, stress, or fatigue. Discipline, however, is consistent, reliable, and unwavering. It does not depend on how you feel. It depends on what you choose to do regardless of circumstance. Think about a student preparing for a crucial exam. Motivation might inspire them to study for a few hours when they feel energetic, but what happens when fatigue sets in, distractions appear, or doubts creep into their mind? Only discipline will carry them through the late nights, the repeated revisions, and the moments when giving up seems tempting. Discipline creates the habit of action even when you do not feel like acting. Consider an athlete training for a marathon or a competition. On days when motivation is high, the training feels natural, exciting, and even fun. But when it is raining, when their body aches, when sleep is minimal and energy is low, motivation alone is insufficient. Discipline is what forces them to lace up their shoes, hit the track, and take the necessary steps toward their goal. That repeated action, driven by discipline, eventually builds endurance, strength, and performance that motivation alone could never sustain. Discipline is also what separates the person who dreams of fitness from the one who transforms their body and health. Many people feel motivated to start exercising, eating better, or adopting a healthier lifestyle, yet most abandon these goals after the initial excitement fades. Discipline, however, creates the routine that pushes you to work out even on days when the couch seems more appealing, to eat right even when cravings tempt you, and to prioritize your long-term well-being over short-term pleasure. Think of the entrepreneur who wants to build a business. Motivation may inspire them at the start, the excitement of a new idea, the vision of success, the initial energy that comes from enthusiasm. But when the first challenges arise, clients reject proposals, when financial stress hits, and when doubt creeps in, motivation alone cannot carry them. Discipline is what drives them to continue working, researching, learning, and improving every single day, transforming vision into reality through consistent effort. In daily life, discipline shows up in the smallest choices as well. Waking up early, prioritizing important tasks, following through on promises, and creating structured habits. These may seem mundane, but they compound into extraordinary results over time. Discipline allows you to show up consistently even when the world is indifferent, even when the excitement fades, and even when nobody is watching. Motivation alone is temporary. It is like fire that flares and dies quickly. Discipline is the steady flame that burns regardless of conditions, gradually illuminating the path toward success. Another example is the artist, musician, or writer who dreams of creating masterpieces. Motivation may inspire a few bursts of creativity, but discipline is what forces them to sit down every day, refine skills, and work through mistakes. They create consistently, even when ideas are scarce, energy is low, or inspiration feels distant. Over time, this consistent effort transforms talent into mastery, and the results speak louder than any momentary burst of motivation ever could. Discipline also shapes character. It teaches patience, responsibility, and resilience. It trains your mind to resist shortcuts, to honor commitments, and to value long-term achievement over instant gratification. When you cultivate discipline, you begin to realize that success is not a matter of luck or fleeting emotion. It is a matter of showing up, acting with consistency, and doing what must be done when it is uncomfortable or inconvenient. Daily life is filled with moments that test discipline. paying bills on time, maintaining a healthy routine, keeping promises to loved ones, or staying committed to personal goals. These small acts of discipline compound into a life of reliability, trust, and accomplishment. The difference between people who achieve their dreams and those who drift aimlessly often comes down to one simple principle: discipline. While motivation may get you started, it is discipline that keeps you moving forward when the initial excitement fades. It is discipline that transforms potential into results, dreams into reality, and effort into lasting success. So the next time you feel unmotivated, tired, or uncertain, remember this discipline is your superpower. It will carry you past obstacles that motivation cannot overcome, through moments when giving up feels easier than continuing, and into a future that is built not on fleeting emotion but on consistent, purposeful action. When you embrace discipline, you create a life where your goals are no longer distant fantasies, but tangible realities, and your success is no longer dependent on how you feel, but on what you consistently choose to do. The world rewards those who act relentlessly, patiently, and consistently, and discipline is the bridge that takes you from where you are today to where you were always meant to be. Silence your excuses, amplify your actions, because every time you justify inaction, delay, or avoidance, you give power to doubt and weakness, while taking action, no matter how small, creates momentum, confidence, and real results. Excuses are the easy way out. They feel comfortable in the moment, but rob you of growth, opportunity, and the satisfaction of achievement. Think about the student who says, "I don't have time to study because I have too much else to do." Or the person who wants to start exercising but says, "I'm too tired today. I'll start tomorrow." Every excuse may seem reasonable at the time, but in reality, each one is a choice to delay progress. Now imagine the student who, despite being busy, sets aside 30 minutes a day to study consistently. Those 30 minutes compound into hours, weeks, and months of preparation. And when exams arrive, the results reflect the action, the excuses. Similarly, the person who chooses to move even when tired eventually builds stamina, strength, and health that would never have been possible had they waited for motivation to feel right. Life presents us with countless opportunities disguised as challenges, and excuses are the mechanism that keeps us from recognizing and seizing them. Consider the entrepreneur who dreams of launching a business. There will always be reasons not to start. The market might seem uncertain. Funds may feel insufficient. Knowledge may appear incomplete. Excuses can sound logical and justified, but if the entrepreneur amplifies action instead, even small steps such as researching the market, networking, or building a prototype eventually create the foundation for a thriving business. Action transforms fear into learning, doubt into experience, and hesitation into achievement, even in daily life. The principle is the same. Think of the person who wants to improve relationships with family or friends, but constantly says, "I'll call them later," or "I'm too busy right now." Each delay is an excuse that postpones connection, understanding, and love. When action is amplified, picking up the phone, writing a note, making the effort, relationships grow stronger, trust deepens, and bonds flourish. Excuses are temporary comforts. Actions produce permanent results. Another example is the aspiring writer, artist, or creator who says, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'm not ready yet." Every day spent waiting is a day lost to fear, doubt, or perfectionism. But the moment they begin, even with a single paragraph, sketch, or practice session, momentum starts to build. Small actions accumulate, skills improve, and eventually, what once felt impossible becomes tangible reality. Amplifying action is not only about quantity, it is about intention, consistency, and courage. It is about refusing to let the circumstances, the mood, or the opinion of others determine whether you move forward. It is about choosing progress over comfort, growth over stagnation, and results over reasoning. Daily life is filled with moments that test this principle. Waking up early to work on a goal when everyone else sleeps, studying after a long day, sending emails or proposals despite fear of rejection, or learning a new skill despite the intimidation of being a beginner. These are all acts of amplified action. The person who embraces this mindset eventually realizes that excuses may sound reasonable in the short term, but action creates a life that is undeniably meaningful, impactful, and successful. Excuses are thieves of time, energy, and potential, but actions are creators of opportunities, experiences, and results. The difference between those who succeed and those who remain stagnant is rarely talent or luck. It is the willingness to act when excuses are easiest to make. Think of the countless stories of people who overcame incredible odds. The immigrant who learned a new language while working long hours. The student from a disadvantaged background who studied late into the night while others slept. The small business owner who persevered despite repeated failures. What set them apart was not that life was easy, but that they refused to let excuses dominate their choices. They amplified their actions, and through relentless effort, their dreams became reality. And the beauty of amplifying action is that it builds confidence. Every step forward, no matter how small, creates proof that you are capable. Each accomplishment, each completed task, each moment you choose effort over excuse strengthens your self-belief and expands